Have you heard that the Tennessee child support guidelines have changed since May 1st? And you're wondering how those changes might affect your child support obligation or the amount of money you receive in child support? Well, my name is Patrick Slaughter. I'm a family law attorney with LaFevor and Slaughter, and I'd like to give you sort of a brief overview of just some of the things that have been changed in the new child support guidelines. The first big change is there is a self-support reserve for low-income earners who have a child support obligation. So if the obligor parent who has to pay child support is working minimum wage, and to pay child support would leave them with an insufficient amount of money to be able to support themselves, the legislature, the Tennessee child support guidelines create a reserve that's intended to credit them with sufficient income so that they're able to support themselves. But that's not the only change. There's been some other bigger changes. In the past, if there was a parent who was receiving child support or a parent who was paying child support had remarried, and the new spouse, who was not a parent to the child, was paying for the child's health insurance coverage. But previously, that couldn't be counted in the child support calculation worksheet. Now it can. So now the parent or the step parent who's providing the the insurance payment for the child will result in the parent getting credit for the money that's being spent to do that. There's also sort of a greater look at what kind of fringe benefits or alternative benefits that a parent receives and how those things can be counted as income. For example, if a party has real estate and that real estate could be rented out, but it's just sitting vacant because the parent doesn't want to do that for fear that it could interfere with the amount of money they want to receive in child support, or the amount of money they have to pay in child support, now that can be counted against them. There's some other bigger changes too. For instance, the imputed amount of income that the court can credit to a parent who is having problems proving what their actual income has gone up significantly. For a man in Tennessee, it's gone up to over $43,000. For a woman in Tennessee, it's gone up to over $36,000. And these are pretty significant increases over what it was in the past. So there's been a bunch of other changes too. So I would tell you, if you're paying child support, or even if you're receiving child support, you really want to look over these guidelines and see, how these changes could benefit your situation. I know the language in these things is kind of hard to read, and some of it doesn't make a whole lot of sense, and sometimes the calculation process is certainly counterintuitive. It might help if you had the assistance of a family law attorney. We'd be happy to help you. If you'd like, pick up the phone, give us a call. We can look at your situation, see how the child support that you're receiving or you're paying now is calculated, and give you an idea how these new changes might benefit your situation. So give us a call. But in the meantime, go to the Tennessee Child Support Department, go online, you can Google it. There's a calculator you can put in there, come up with an idea on your own, look over the changes on your own, but don't be afraid to reach out and get some help. You want to make sure your children are taken care of, and these new guidelines certainly make that a little bit easier.